Hey everybody, I've been trying to come up with a way to make bags really quickly, and this is it. We've been working on this for like a year now. This is a leather wet mold, and what it lets you do is make a leather bag like this. It's got one seam, two main parts, and it takes about an hour to make. We have the small one, which we're going to make in this video, and the bigger one. You can see the exact measurements on Buckleguy's website. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make one, and we're going to make the small one. So let's get into it. We're going to start the night before. I have various clamps here, and I have my wet mold, and then I have a piece of veg tin. This is about 5 ounces, totally soaked through with water. And I cut enough. Here, let me show you. What I did was I took the base plate and I added an 1.5 to 2 inches around the whole thing. Because remember, we have 2-inch deep wet mold here. Now, these are not attached to the base plate. You don't need to do that. You can if you want, but you don't need to. I'm not going to because I like the chance to only use one. If I want to make a 1-inch deep mold, I can do that. If I want to make a 2-inch deep mold, I can do that as well. We're going to attach all of our clamps and slowly work this leather down over this mold. These are my favorite clamps for this mold in particular. They're a little stronger and a little easier if you don't have crazy grip strength. You just kind of screw them down. If you only have like one of these, you can just use that and then use the squeeze clamps around it. That works fine too. Now we just wait until tomorrow morning, take it out of the clamps, let it fully dry, and be ready to start building. Okay, it's the next day. I've pulled my mold out, and you can see we have this beautiful bag shape. Super simple. Now, don't worry about these waves. We're going to trim everything off. If it is too wavy, you can dampen this and just tap it down with a hammer. But we're going to trim this to about 1/4 of an inch, so all of this will be trimmed away. This whole top part will be trimmed away. To do that, we're going to take our dividers. I'm going to set this to 1/4 of an inch. Side that's touching the bag, I'm holding it off the leather, and I'm just making a rough, traceable line with the other side. Use a nice sharp blade for this. And we're going to trim the straight parts first, and then we'll go in and hand cut that curve. Now this is a very deep wet mold, so you can't expect it to be perfect. Don't try to get it perfect. What we can do is, and I'll show you later in the video, we can make it nice and flat later on. And then I'm just going to cut a straight line here to get rid of this extra on the top so that we can make our flat piece. And there we go. We have a nice flange here to sew. We're going to sew right on this corner here. The most important part is we want our body to be nice and smooth. These little waves, that's to be expected with a wet mold this deep. You can adjust that by using thinner leather if you want, but I'm fine with it. We're going to be able to flatten it out as we construct the rest of the bag. Make a line however deep you want the bag, or however tall you want the bag. Trace like that. Then use a straight edge and then cut down. But you got to be careful because there's nothing under here. Right? The leather's thick enough, but just be careful because the minute you cut this, you're going to lose support. So what I'll do is I'll grab the 2 wooden pieces. I'll put that in there. And now we have a good surface. The thing of it is, you don't really want to cut directly into the wood. So I'm going to do one light scoring pass and another. Then I'm going to take it out of the mold. And I'm just going to finish that by hand. Like that. Then to cut this bottom piece here, I do like to use the calipers so that I get a nice even fit. Just make sure that my lines are perfect. And then all I'm going to do is stick my knife in and slowly press down. Your wet mold set is going to come with either a printout or an acrylic, whichever you choose, of the back and the flap. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to trace this onto leather. Now for the printout, make sure you follow the guidelines. You're going to have to cut 2 pieces after you print them and just stick them together with either glue or tape. I just use packing tape, super easy. I'm using a, let's see here. This is 6 ounces, this leather. It's the same leather I used on the body. We're just going to cut this out. All right, once we have, this is the paper pattern for our back and our flap. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the wet molded part to the back piece. It's only 2 pieces. This will, well, we'll put a couple attachments for a bag strap and stuff, but the main body is just 2 pieces, that's it. Now if we look at this back flap, you're going to see there's a slim part. This is the flap. It's going to flare out. This is the back. So this here is actually a little bit of a seam allowance so that we can put the flange of our wet mold, we can stick that to this and sew it up. This line right here, this line, depending on how you trim your wet mold, you are going to use anything below this line. You could use all the way up to the top. You could use maybe a 1/4 inch down on each side. What you're going to want to do, now that we have the back cut out, I got some alligator clips, and I just clipped this together, and I found exactly, for me it's only like 1/8 of an inch on either side here. I'm going to just mark where the top of the bag is going to line up so I know where to glue. I'm going to take my clips off. We're going to need somewhere to hang this, so I'm going to use these sort of oversized for this bag. D-rings, I like the look. These are 3/4 inches, so I'm going to use my little Buckleguy strap cutter at 3/4 of an inch to cut a strap. I'll be able to use this for both. I'm going to use my 3/4 inch CS Osborne strap end punch. This is just a half round. You can use an English point, that would look really pretty too. I decided I'm just going to use 1 rivet. Doesn't really need more, it's not a very heavy bag. So this is 2.5 inches long. And all I'm going to do is put the first one on top of the second one. And just kind of trace it. That's how we design this system. It's not super, you don't have to be super perfect with anything. You can just kind of put it together with very few patterns and just have fun with it. All right, so we have our magnetic closure here. We have our magnetic closure on our flap. We have our D-rings attached. This will help us hang a crossbody. I used 3/4 inch D-rings here, and I used 11mm by 12.7mm double cap rivets for both sides. Of course, you can do whatever you'd like. You can sew them, you can install rivets, you can do anything. Most of the decisions you're going to be making on your own. So now we get to do our glue up. Glue up is super easy. I'm using a good strong glue, barge cement. And the glue, in this instance, we are going to hammer down all of these waves. So you do want to use a really good glue. Now we're going to glue from the mark that we made when we had this piece in the alligator clips down around to the other mark. Now, if you want this surface to be less wavy, just step down in the thickness of your leather. I don't have a problem with it because, as you'll see, we're going to hammer it away. But some people like to have a perfectly flat surface to start with. So it's just a give and take with a wet mold this deep. You can also only use one of the layers, so you can make a 1 inch thick bag instead of a 2 inch thick bag. That'll help as well. Once our glue's dry, I'm going to use some of these clips. You don't have to, but it's good as like a third hand sort of thing. And I'm just going to line up one side at the line that I made, stick down just the straight part, and add a couple clips. Then I'm going to stick down the other side of the line I made, just the straight part, and add a couple of clips there. And I'm holding this back so it doesn't stick, but now I'm going to push down on the middle, get that centered, and again, a couple of clips. Then I'm going to put my hand inside and just kind of work this corner to get the edges all lined up. And same thing, as I get them lined up, a couple of clips. I'll do that on both sides and I'll be good to go. I'm just using my quarter pounder. And don't be afraid to just kind of push this over, because now that we have everything glued up, it's really going to help keep its shape no matter what. I'm going to use the Corter Buckleguy stitching chisels, the 5mm version, to punch my stitching holes. All I'm going to do, let me put it this way for you, we have this nice right angle from the wet mold. Just going to throw that stitching chisel in there, make sure it's straight up and down, and that's it. Just go all the way around. You'll want to use the 9-tooth and the 2-tooth. You want to make sure you're holding the chisel straight up and down so that you don't send the stitch line super far inboard. You can leave this flange as long as you want. If you don't want to do this trimming, you don't need to. So you can see our kit makes a beautiful wet molded bag inside, lots of room. Now this is the small version. The large version is about 1 inch bigger all the way around. Measurements will be on the website. And you can see all the waves are gone. Edges are trimmed up nicely. It's not the easiest thing in the world to make a 2-inch deep wet mold, but it's totally doable once you get the hang of it. Super fun. And the big thing is this bag took me about an hour to make. So you can focus more on volume or tooling or materials, however you want to go about it. You can make this as fancy or as basic as you want. And that's going to be it. Like I said, there's a big size and this is the small size. The wet mold sets will be on Buckleguy's website. Link will be in the description. And thank you guys so much. It's because of you guys we get to make this cool stuff. And I'm excited to make more bags. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.